Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today is Vlogmas Day 8. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. This year for Vlogmas, I am doing the whole series on modifiers. And I'm giving you guys some really good examples. And all of the websites that I am reading from for these modifiers are going to be in the description box of each of these videos. So I hope that you will check it out and I hope that you learned something. And so, let us begin. Today's modifier is going to be modifier 52 for reduced services. I'm going to start off by reading from the CPT Professional edition by the AMA. In Appendix A, there are the definitions of these modifiers. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, modifier 52. Under certain circumstances, a service or procedure is partially reduced or eliminated at the discretion of the provider or other qualified healthcare professional. Under these circumstances, the service provided can be identified by its usual procedure number and the addition of modifier 52, signifying the service is reduced. This provides a means of reporting reduced services without disturbing the identification of the basic service. So that is something that you all should take from that, which is this goes on procedure codes, not evaluation and management codes. Okay, so I'm going to put that out there. I'm going to start off by reading from the NOVITAS website, and then we're going to get to the other website that I'm going to be reading from. So NOVITAS, thanking them for all of their information. Modifier 52 fact sheet. Let's see. Modifier 52. Under certain circumstances, a service or procedure is partially reduced or eliminated at the provider's discretion. Okay. Appropriate usage of modifier 52. Unusual reduced circumstances. The service performed was significantly less than usually required. To indicate partial reduction of services for which anesthesia is not planned. Append modifier to the reduced procedures CPT code. Inappropriate use. To report the termination of a procedure. Do not use on time-based codes. Okay, some of these CPT codes are time-based, and you'll know because it'll tell you in the description of the procedure code if it is time-based, and if it is, this 52 does not apply to those codes. And then when used on evaluation and management services. So again, this does not apply to evaluation and management codes at all. Okay. Supporting documentation. Additional information to support the modifier can be written in the narrative of the claim. If data cannot be written into the narrative, the documentation must be submitted. Supporting documentation should state when the procedure was started, explain why the procedure was reduced, and notate the percentage of the procedure that was performed. This is very important to talk about with your providers even when this is not happening, because in the instance that it does happen, at least your providers are educated so they are prepared. Sometimes they may think, well, I mean, I didn't complete it, so do I need to document it? Absolutely, they have to document everything that they do. But even on those reduced cases, they can still get payment for those as long as there is documentation as to the why and what happened and what was going on, what was a percentage. And there's not like this heavy duty, like, oh, it's got to have this, this, and this. But this is why having those details, like the percentage of this procedure that was complete, is really helpful, because when they're reviewing this with the insurance company, they can say, okay, yes, this was a reduced service because they only did this much, and this is the supporting documentation. So we have to make things very clear. We cannot assume that the insurance company is going to accept whatever is submitted. We need to make sure that we're looking at this with a keen eye and that the providers are well trained and to know what to do in these situations when they have to have a procedure that was reduced. Okay. So here's this other website that I like. It's called CareCloud.com. They did a really good article with examples for modifier 52, which I thought was very helpful, and I was like, yes, let me go ahead and talk about this on here. So it says modifier 52 is outlined for use with surgical or diagnostic CPT codes in order to indicate reduced or eliminated services. This means Modifier 52 should be applied to CPTs which represent diagnostic or surgical services that were reduced by the provider by choice. There's the key words right there, by choice, all right? We have to know what happened. At first glance, it may seem Modifier 52 is similar to Modifier 53 for discontinued services. 53 will be tomorrow, okay? However, an important point to note is that while these two modifiers are used under similar circumstances, they are distinctly different in how they should be correctly used. These two particular modifiers can cause confusion, and applying them incorrectly to your claims can lead to underpayment or denials. So again, this is why I am going over this with all of you guys to make sure that at least when you're talking it out, sometimes it helps rather than just reading it, okay? Defining Modifier 52. As we noted, the qualifying reduced service codes for Modifier 52 are very specific. The CPT Appendix A states, under certain circumstances, a service or procedure is partially reduced or eliminated at the provider's discretion. Under these circumstances, the service provided can be identified by its usual procedure number and the addition of Modifier 52, signifying that the service is reduced. Circumstances for applying Modifier 52 would not include a change to the procedure that was unexpected by the provider. So in order to append Modifier 52 appropriately, you need to know why the services were reduced by the provider. Since modifiers 52 and 53 are closely related, the why behind what was done will help clarify which should be used. An important reminder here on the rule with most modifiers, 52 should not be used when a CPT exists that better describes a scenario that you are trying to report by using Modifier 52. So if a provider only did up to a certain amount of the procedure, and there's actually a procedure code that covers for that amount that they did, then instead of coding the original procedure that was going to be done, you can use the reduced one without having to use that Modifier 52 for reduced services, because that other code covers whatever that they need to, okay? So the thing that I'm thinking of is like something that would have like a number in it, and if it's up to that number and there's another procedure code that covers up to that, then you're good to go, okay? To help illustrate when an applicable situation could arise, look at the examples for Modifier 52 for use. A provider performs a unilateral tonsillectomy on a 10-year-old patient, CPT code 42820. In this case, apply Modifier 52. This CPT assumes bilateral surgery, so to show that only one side was, the procedure was performed only on one side, or electively reduced, 52 modifier would be appropriate. Example 2, pretty well straightforward, right? Example 2 is a surgeon performs a laparoscopic procedure for the removal of bilateral pelvic lymph glands. The full description of the procedure includes total pelvic lymphadenectomy and periaortic lymph node sampling biopsy, single or multiple. However, the surgeon removes all except the internal iliac nodes. As the doctor elected to stop short of removing the internal iliac nodes, appending Modifier 52 alerts to the reduction in service for this procedure. Okay, so again, it's going back to the why, and really kind of understanding and comprehending what you're reading when it comes to these op notes is very important to getting the correct modifier. Example 3, CPT Assistant in 2016 also provides a valuable example. If removal of transvenous electrodes was attempted by transvenous extraction but was unsuccessful, report code 33234, removal of transvenous pacemaker electrode single lead system atrial, or ventricular with modifier 52 for reduced services. Depending on the circumstances as to why the procedure was stopped, modifier 52 is reportable if no anesthesia was administered and the physician elected to terminate the procedure. So again, it goes back to the why. When to not use modifier 52. The code description includes unilateral or bilateral, okay? Don't use that. That's what it's saying. Don't use it. So looking at the code description, it really helps. An existing CPT or HCPCS code properly identifies the reduced service. So again, going back to the example that I said earlier, if they're removing something and there's a procedure code that covers the smaller number that was removed, then you can use that procedure code instead of using the larger one with the 52. You can use the smaller one without the 52, okay? Anesthesia administration and or the patient's well-being at risk were factors in ending the procedure. So that would have to really be in the documentation so that they know what actually happened. Again, talking to your providers about this, and it can be at any time when you have time for education, or it can be when you're stopping in the hallway and you kind of chit chat with them, or even on email. You can do a coding tip of the week and you can talk about these modifiers, if they're the ones that are selecting. For us at our facility, because there's so many issues with that, we are the ones who primarily do the modifier selection, which is fine because, like I said, we're the coders. It's our job to do that. But if it is different at your facility, it's something that you should consider doing, okay? The summary says, choosing between modifier 53 for discontinued service and modifier 52 for reduced services is all dependent on the physician's reason for stopping the procedure. While these two modifiers may seem similar on the surface, just keep in mind that modifier 52 is for reduced services. If you are appending modifier 52 to a claim, remember to maintain documentation explaining why the procedure was cut short. Documentation should provide plenty of detail to allow the payer to make the reimbursement decision. So again, it is about advocating for your providers so that they know, and making sure that they understand what the difference is and why do we need this. And the fact that they will still get reimbursed, but we need to know like how much, and the insurance company needs to know how much, because this goes back to how many resources were used and that kind of thing. So it's all about brain power and talking with your providers. I always talk about provider communication because I cannot reiterate how important it is. And when you're applying these modifiers, it's telling more of the story. And to a trained eye, we're going to be able to see, okay, this was a reduced service. Then the documentation should be able to reflect that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Tomorrow is going to be a modifier 53. So if this helped you, please give it a thumbs up because, YouTube likes their thumbs up. And if it helped you, you think it can help somebody else, share it so that way other people can find it as well. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys again for joining me, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.